All right, it is Wednesday. It is 4:30 p.m. Central Time. Means office hours here in the academy. Andrew, how are things?
Pretty good. Per the usual, usually mention something about what's going on outside, and I'm feeling upbeat. I'm happy to start to see glimpses of spring. I've got a couple of flowers that have popped up in the yard. Uh, MMS MOA sold out this week. That's exciting news. So all good. Everything's good.
I'm happy to hear. I've been arguing with an Intel NUC device for a good half hour here, so.
Well, that's just part of the fun of our careers that we've chosen.
Mhm. But yeah, it's nice to see flowers coming up also.
Yeah, absolutely.
All
Uh,
right. What's new? That's the most important part.
well, there's always something, right? I've got a couple of things that I've come across, or at least just wanted to mention from the last week or so. Um,
So
if
I
you'd like to
should,
share my screen,
yeah, I shall. And I did.
perfect.
And now also optimized.
There we go. So we may have mentioned this previously, and if you've spent even just a few minutes on social media or a Microsoft blog post or anything recently, you may have seen this already. But I thought it is worth repeating. Um, with the retirement of the MS Online PowerShell module, which I know we've talked about a lot over the last year, there are certain versions of Entra Connect Sync that are going to simply stop working here at the end of the month. So I just wanted to call out the warning message here that's on the Entra Connect Sync version history page. Like I said, I've seen tweets about this, LinkedIn posts about this, Microsoft posts about this, forum posts, Reddit posts, it's all over. Make sure that before the end of the month, you actually update to either 2.4.18 at least. That is the minimum supported version, though, in my experience, I usually just recommend going to the latest. Those are for the commercial cloud tenants. And then if you're on a non commercial cloud, it is a different minimum version, as you can see here 2.4.21.0. But super important if you're using Entra Connect Sync, make sure that you get in there and do this update before the end of the month. So that was one thing that I wanted to mention. Also came across a blog post from Rudy. He posted it over on the Patch My PC blog about the new quick machine recovery that has showed up in Windows Insider previews. So this basically is a way of recovering Windows with no additional USB recovery media or anything like that on a local device. So you can see you boot into some of the advanced boot options, and you have the option of going to quick machine recovery. Is the short version of this. Now, the longer version, and what Rudy walks through, is kind of how this works. Shows what it looks like when you actually do boot into quick machine recovery. And even with it being an insider preview right now, you do have to actually enable it through some custom CSPs here. So, as usual, Rudy steps through all of this. Pretty excited to see this feature start to get rolled out. A lot of the context around the announcements that I've seen for it are based around the CrowdStrike incident that many of us had to deal with last year, where we had devices that were out off of our network. We had people that were working remotely, and no really simple way of recovering Windows for those folks. So very cool stuff here. I know we're excited to start to see this roll out. Also came across a couple of announcements around Autopatch and Windows Update for Business. So Autopatch now is going to be available for business premium licenses and education licenses. So I know a lot of folks are going to be excited about that. I have not seen it actually pop up in any tenants with those licenses yet. but that's just been my experience. I'm going to keep an eye out on that. So when I do see that here in the future, I'll make sure that we mention that during office hours. But that's exciting. Those licenses I think made sense. They largely had all of the other prereqs required for Autopatch. So to see Autopatch get added is pretty cool. Offers a lot of flexibility for those organizations. And then Windows Update for Business also has a new name. Within Intune, it's just been renamed to Windows Update Client Policies. So thought I would mention that as well. Everything was. I don't know about you, Johan. I'm even still a little bit confused by the naming because last year everything was supposed to be coming up under the Autopatch umbrella for naming, but we still see Windows Update for Business referenced all over the place. So now we're going to see that start to get renamed to Windows Update Client Policies. Hopefully, I'm not alone in being a little confused by the naming, but nevertheless, there it is. Now, follow up from last week. I talked a little bit about how the new policies for lapse were going to be added into Intune, but as of that was part of the what's new in Intune in the 2503 service release. But we still had to do custom CSPs as of last week. Well, as of this week, that's no longer the case. So if we go to endpoint security node here and then go to account protection, and we'll just take a look at even an existing lapse policy that I have here. I didn't even need to create a new one. I can go ahead and edit this policy and we'll see some new options in there. One is not going to be immediately obvious because we actually have to look at a dropdown. So here, if we look under password complexity, we can now see all the passphrase options. Very exciting. In addition to that, one that's a little bit more obvious, we can now set the automatic account management enabled to yes. So the target account will automatically be managed. And there are some additional options here based on whether or not the account will be enabled or disabled when it's created. We can actually randomize the name of that account so the account is different across all of our devices. And a couple of other options here as well. We can set prefixes or specific names and that sort of thing. Really exciting to see this in here just because although we could do this with a custom CSP already, as we talk about often on here, it's so much easier and a more consistent experience, I think, if we're able to do this through settings catalog policies. Now, this was new as of maybe the last day or so, so I haven't had the chance to test it out myself yet, but I did come across this tweet from James Robinson. So first and foremost, I think we've mentioned before that these settings are only available for Windows 11 24H2. But if you apply the passphrase policies through Intune, you actually won't get an error. It's just going to apply the default password complexity instead of the passphrases. So very important for that fact. And you do still have to make sure, if it's not a 24H2 device, that if you're setting a custom account in there, that the account needs to exist already. So we're back to some of the other options that we've talked about in the past. Around using remediations, PowerShell scripts to create those accounts ahead of time. So there's still a little bit of nuance there, but very promising as we move into 24H2 and beyond what these settings look like. This is really going to streamline the lapse onboarding for new devices, I think. So pretty cool to see that those improvements make it to the platform. And that was what I had for today.
All right, then. That was not so little.
More than I expected, I guess, once I got to talking.
Yeah. Well, I have a few things on my mind. Let me go ahead and share my screen here. Dum, 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 dum. So first of all, there was a thread on Twitter going on earlier today regarding a customer who had troubles sysprepping their Windows 11 image using ConfigMgr. There's a build and capture process been in ConfigMgr for like 20 years now, or at least 15 years. I've been working perfectly until Windows 11, or until recent Windows 11, I should say, 24H2 in particular. But if you start to read through the Sysprep documentation, it quite clearly says, let's see, unsupported scenarios. Sysprep cannot run under the context of a system account. Guess what account ConfigMgr runs Sysprep under? That would be the system account. And the thing is, this has been working great, even though it's not has been supported. But right now, it started to fail. And when customers call support, they get met by, no, it's not supported scenario. Click. So I actually reached out to a couple of Microsoft folks earlier today because this is no fun. ConfigMgr has a build and capture feature that runs Sysprep. It should work. So either they fix ConfigMgr to run it differently, or they fix Sysprep to actually work with the system account, one or the other. So workaround for now is, of course, run it differently. Either break down the process in two, so you just run Sysprep manually and remove, or reboot, or create a scheduled task or something to run Sysprep under a different account. So that there are workarounds. It's just annoying, this little thing. And it just popped up recently. But I think I should worth mentioning that, and of course we'll keep you updated as we go by here in the weeks of office hours.
Perfect.
Then, not exactly related to this, but in fact the opposite, because this is shiny. That particular issue, not shiny. But Frank recently updated, it's a friend here in Chicago, very, very active in the community, but he updated his Repair-NTFSPermissions PowerShell script. So I figured I should mention that one. Very, very useful. And then just to also tap into a little bit what you mentioned, Andrew, there about the Windows Labs. I saw a reminder from James Robinson earlier today. And he, by the way, is the gentleman behind a lot of the open Intune baseline stuff, or most of it, if not all of it. Anyhow, you really need to be on 24H2 for this to work. Yes, so don't try with anything else. And right now there are, I don't work with a single customer at the moment that has 24H2 as their main build. They're testing it, they're evaluating it, but they're currently rolling out 23H2 because of basically stability reasons. So worth mentioning. Now, I also spent some time on basically updating an old blog post, but if you ever want a ConfigMgr boot image ISO to not ask question when you boot the virtual machine on it, well, here's a script to generate an ISO, and here's a script to make it be quiet, and just boot up without no questions or without questions. So those are available. And then the other one was I forgot about this. This was something I used maybe 20 years ago in the SMS 2003 OSD feature pack. Basically, when you want a sequence to pause and you don't want to leverage service UI or anything else, you just want it to stop for a bit. Here is a PowerShell script that you can add to your sequence. It works in WinP, it works in Windows, and it just sits there until you create the text file. And then it will continue. So you can just hit F8, create that text file, folder for that matter, since it's just using taskpath, it will work with the folder even though it says file, but then it continues. So I just want to share that one. It was a good old trick from the from when imaging was cool back in the early 2000s here.
I don't know. I still think it's cool.
It is still cool, but it was like keynote cool.
Yeah.
Bill Gates and what's his name? Will come to me. Brett Flagg organizing. I think Brad Anderson was on stage also at some point. Doesn't matter. They had this wall of fire, entire keynote hall, one of the walls in it. 100 computers stayed up with Windows 2000, and they re-imaged them to XP live in front of a couple of thousand people at the IT Forum in Copenhagen.
So cool.
Within 10 minutes, and it was beautiful. It was so beautiful. One of those memories for life type experiences. Then they repeat that a little bit later. See, I'm so excited about throwing stuff on the table here. But it was one of those moments. I was tears in my eyes. It was beautiful.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I remember the technician on stage asking Bill Gates, if this fails, will I be fired? And without the blank, yes. I was like, okay. Anyhow, fun memories. All right. Do we have any questions?
We do. And I was just, it's funny, I was trying to find a post on that, and Brett Flagg does have a post from a few years back on the Wall of Fire. Looks like he might have even have a picture right in front of it.
I saw a LinkedIn post from him when he joined Microsoft back again, because he left for a bit and went over to Google, and then he came back.
Yep, this is probably the post. So pretty cool. I'll drop it in our links for this evening.
All right, then.
All right. So, yes, questions. We do have a few questions that have come in. Chat looks pretty busy today, which is awesome. So, first question here is from Sahid. How can I package a NuGet PowerShell script as a Win32 app? And what is the detection file location in Intune?
I did see. So that was a post that also got added to our community on the Academy. And I did provide a more generic answer in that forum, because there was some script samples, etc. To it, but I didn't create a complete solution just out of the blue.
Did you have a script or a post somewhere? I know you've talked about it, but it might have been in a different forum. Did you have a script or a post on packaging up a PowerShell script as a Win32 app?
Well, yes, I do, because I use that when we copy files.
Yeah. Okay. Sometimes I can't remember if it's just a discussion we had or.
No, it exists. So this is obviously how you package up a script to copy files. But if you just skip adding any files to that folder, it's going to be a post about how to add a script as an application. But it's basically runs there, and then you just provide a command line for that application in Intune. I did stumble across a Reddit thread on the topic where they were having trouble silently install it without any user intervention, which is the case here. So this one explains, if you expand the full session here, they did come up with a solution, and it's part of this thread. So we're happy to share this thread with you. As far as detection method goes, probably going to be looking for either that cache file or something like that, but I will have to do some more testing on that. But I will start with this thread in terms of the scripting to make it silent. and also to include any dependencies there. But if anyone happen to have a ready-made script that they can share, by all means, let us know. I'll be happy to share it.
All right. Got a question over on Twitter. We have deployed hundreds of Windows 11 24H2 devices, and it's been miserable because 24H2 breaks Wi-Fi. Any tried and true fixes that you know of?
No.
Yeah.
I haven't.
Nothing that I've come across. And it's straight. I'm starting to feel like either I'm living in the twilight zone or I've just gotten lucky, because I've upgraded at least all of my devices here and many of my test machines and stuff to 24H2, and and plenty of production machines as well, in one of the organizations I work in, and have not come across these issues. But to your point, Johan, you're not really seeing anybody that is using 24H2 because of so many issues. So it's interesting. It's common. I've heard of a lot of 24H2 issues.
Yeah, it must be something that it's unique to the environment. But I mean, if you search quickly for it, it's you are not alone.
Yeah, not at all.
What I do recommend, if you haven't done it already, is to actually go through the pain and sign up for a support case with Microsoft. So, because the more people that submit issues with it, the quicker it gets fixed and the bigger attention it gets. It's pretty much a numbers game at this point.
Yeah, and you're not kidding. I mean, it's post after post. Microsoft community, Reddit, Dell, Lenovo forums, Linus Tech Tip forums. It's all over.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, unfortunately, nothing I've seen that is actually fixing that when that breaks. Benny is asking us over on YouTube, what is the best way to extract the contents of an Intune Win file, or the Win32 app content file?
Well, and the file itself is just a zip, but I'm assuming they want to get to the original content with. I think the best one I've seen is from Damien. He wrote a little utility to extract. I know Oliver has a few posts on the topic also.
Yeah.
Do you happen to have them?
Not either of those yet. The first one you said was Damien's, right?
Yeah, sys and deploy. He wrote a little GUI for it. Let's see if I can find it. Yeah, right-click extract. He has an option. Tool to build. Yeah, I can bring it up on the screen here.
Okay.
So this one is fairly recently updated.
That's right.
Maybe that. Because obviously Microsoft has made some changes also over time.
Right. All right. I see a familiar name in here that we haven't seen for a while. Matt's joining us again. Happy to be back. Yeah. Thanks, Matt. Matt was also asking, how was the MVP event?
To be perfectly honest, shite. I can tell you why it was not good. I wanted to go in person.
Yeah.
Like always. And this year was the first year for the past 20 years there was a capped limit of people that were allowed to go on site. And I was not quick enough to register. I was a couple of weeks late. Not before the deadline, I think. I just didn't do it like the first hour. So I was not allowed to come and visit. And if you thought the Sysprep issue made me not happy, this was also one of those, dang it. So, what did I say? Don't mention the war. John, please.
Yeah.
Faulty Towers, that was the show.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
Lesson learned for next year.
Oh, yeah, I'll be on the doorbell, like, refresh.
That's right. All right. So got a question here around trying but failing to get a Windows 11 24H2 feature update to deploy to a Windows 10 22H2 VM via ConfigMgr. Sounds like with it just failing, anything to look out for, any specific failures or common issues or anything that we've seen.
No, that build is not any different from others. I mean, I spent the entire morning be doing a training this week, Windows Config Manager training, and 24H2 is pretty much if you use the trick of multiple phases where you have validation and testing in one sequence and you do the actual upgrade in another, that is by far the best way to reduce failures for your imaging. And this is regardless of Windows 10 or Windows 11 version that you happen to upgrade to and from. So would recommend do that.
Okay, there's a follow-up comment here. I see no failures. The deployment does not appear on the client machine.
So is this a sequence that is deployed, or is it a software update package somehow? Or service plans, it's called. All right.
Pushing via an update deployment, not OSD or test sequence.
Yeah. I don't use those too much, the servicing plans, but I'm pretty sure they still offer that update based on upgrade experience indicators. At least that is worth looking into. So if you go to your device and take a look, if I can spell upgrade, it would be great. These guys, and just take a look what it looks like in the registry for that particular build. So in this case, this build here. Or tap into the config menu inventory, because config menu by default does create a WMI class of the upgrade experience indicators. Less detailed though, but they still have the main thing in them. So maybe that, and also look. Normally, you would also look for safeguard holds, etc. But obviously, on a virtual machine, you're not very likely to have a safeguard hold unless you have a very strange app in that VM. Most safeguard holds are related to drivers, stuff like that.
All right. Thank you, sir. A question here over on YouTube, hoping to see if there's a way to update a primary user via a PowerShell script in MgGraph. So a couple that I have come across over time, unless you have something to share, Johan, I've got a couple here.
Mm-hmm.
One is from Sean, who's now over at Microsoft. He wrote a post a couple of years back on how to dynamically update primary users on Intune managed devices. So there are a couple of scripts here that help do that. And then I came across another one here that I haven't used it myself, so I can't totally vouch for it. But just with a brief look at it here, it looks like it's going to do, basically do a raw graph request here. It's going to connect to graph, do that request, and then essentially assign the most recent user, which is similar to what Sean's doing in his post as well. So these might help. These are a little bit more dynamic. So if you were wanting something that you could run ad hoc, that's going to be able to, you might be able to just pull these out of the script and just do some of these raw requests. Would be a couple of the ways that I would look at doing this first. But there are several other examples too that you can come across here online. Pretty straightforward to make that change, since you're effectively just setting something on a device object. So hopefully that helps. Matt is asking, so we all know Windows 10 is going end of life soon. However, Windows 11 22H2 is also going end of life as well. Do you know when Microsoft decided on this one?
End of life? Yeah. But that one is easier because, can I steal the screen?
Yes.
Because Windows 11 22H2 to 23H2 is just an enablement package. So there is a little testing you need to do for that one. It's essentially the same version of Windows. That's basically the same reason if you download, you might remember from last week, I blogged about here how you can add in RSAT tools and other components offline. You start off with downloading, an ISO from Microsoft, and when you download an ISO for 23H2, you don't. You download one for 22H2 because it's applicable for both 22H2 and 23H2 because they're essentially the same, and that's why you can easily leverage an EKB for that. That's the only Windows 11 version you can do that. All the other are just really painful to do upgrades on because they require the full in-place upgrade. What else? There was something else I thought of. Good Lord. Don't get old, Andrew.
I'm trying not to, and here we are. I got a birthday coming up.
End of life.
Inevitable.
End of life. Did you find the date for 22?
Yes. Yeah, I did. And so Microsoft posts these dates, at the release of every one of their feature updates. So 22H2 is same day as Windows 10, October 14th, 2025. Oh, you can just, if you want, you can just pop over to my screen. I've got it up.
Good. Even better.
There we go.
Perfect.
So this is at least for enterprise and education. If you are using Pro, the dates are a little bit different.
If you're using Pro, you are unfortunately doing it wrong.
Yeah.
But sometimes the landscape is not something you can change. Sometimes politics come in play, and you have to play the cards you have been dealt with. But
exactly,
enterprise and education is where you want to be.
So if you do happen to be in that scenario and you are on Pro and you're on 22H2, you are already out of support.
So
upgrade.
Yeah.
If you're enterprise and education, though, you've got until October, and then 23H2 is in support until November of next year.
I'm the same. We had a discussion in class this morning. Basically, lunch it was actually after lunch. Come October, you have two choices. Either you make sure you upgrade to a supported version of Windows, so you continue to get security updates and whatnot. Or if you're still on Windows 10, you stay on Windows 10 and you pay for updates. It's not cheap, but it's doable. And for some customers that they cannot afford to buy new hardware and they have older hardware and they simply cannot. It's cheaper for them to pay for upgrades. So, anyhow.
All right. So Matt's got a question for us over here on YouTube. Experiencing content mismatch errors on an in-place upgrade. Following old blog posts to turn off binary replication and running a trib command on the share to fix it. That seemed to work. Have you ever heard of such a crazy thing?
No, quite the opposite. I have been enabling binary delta replication has been helping larger packages, and I mean, an in-place upgrade is a fairly large package. I haven't heard about the opposite, but I mean, I've seen antivirus breaking content left and right. Interesting trick, or have not stumbled across that one. I know how to validate for it. If you take an in-place upgrade package and you force it to create an offline media of it, it does the same type of validation a client would do when it tries to download the package, checking for checksums.
Were you showing something in the console, Johan?
Maybe this one.
Okay. Blog post. All right. Got it.
Yeah. So on that note of getting old, but yeah, there are options to validate content without having to do a full deployment. But I have not stumbled across turning off binary delta replication and changing an attribute on the share. But thank you for sharing, Matt. It's a good trick to try to remember.
All right. Cool. We've got a comment here. It's a follow-up from last week. The issue with feature updates being removed from GCC tenant appears to be rolled back, at least for us. So thanks for sharing.
That is fantastic. That was one of those, like, oh, wait a minute.
Why?
Yeah.
All right. And I see a question here from Shri that I think is a follow-up question from something else, but I can't tell. Asking if that's an MDT issue as well. 24H2 stopped after installing the OS in MDT.
The Sysprep issue? No, it's different.
Okay.
This particular issue was running Sysprep as system in the system context, and MDT always runs it as a local admin account. But there were some issues back in October, November with Sysprep that I think got fixed. So just make sure you have an updated media there, and also make sure that the machine doesn't have internet access when you build it, and never, ever, ever Sysprep can capture physical devices. Always VMs. That usually works quite well.
All right.
If needed, I should say, because, I mean, these days, most organizations have switched over to working with thin images, but some organizations, they don't really have a choice. It's either having an image with some apps in it or wait 3 days to get it deployed.
Yeah.
To prep a classroom or something, a lab.
All right. Having trouble finding the community tool or script to test the endpoints required by Intune. Could you point me in the right direction? So there are two that come to mind for me off the top of my head. There is the Intune debug toolkit. Does have one option for testing some of those endpoints right there. Thank you, Johan.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the tools there will help. And then Martin Himkin also wrote a script a few months back. That one, if you want to flip over to my screen, Johan, I have up.
Yeah, so that one, to just, I'm not downplaying this one or anything, but the Martins is a little more complete in terms of.
It's a few lines, 2039 to be exact, of a PowerShell script, and quite a few options to it. I agree. It tests M365 URLs, Windows Store. You can see a whole bunch of different options here that are available. So agree on both counts, Johan. Intune Debug Toolkit will do a great job. I think that one, if I'm not mistaken, is primarily around autopilot, or a little bit more focused, whereas Martin's script is a little more broad. It will even test if you're managing iOS devices, Android devices, test the NuGet installer, a whole bunch of things. I get the sense that he has worked on the script for quite some time.
Yeah, 3,000 lines of script will definitely take the good part of the afternoon to couple together.
I would say so. So those are the two that we normally would recommend. Any others that you've come across, Johan?
No.
Okay.
Just the fact that all SSL inspection is evil, and I will never get those hours back to my life.
That's you could write a blog post like this: SSL inspection, everything I've learned. It's not good for managing endpoints.
It's just such a pain.
Yeah.
Well, going back to the feature update policy, I just looked up the official documentation.
Okay.
That post, well, it hasn't been updated either, but it still claims it's not supported.
Okay. Good to know. Hopefully it's going to be rolled back and supported.
Yeah, and documentation updated would be helpful.
I agree.
I mean, obviously, they have to pick and choose. Yeah, just bring it back, but ideally also update the documentation.
All right. See a couple follow-up comments in here. It looks like are just sort of chat activity. Awesome. Love to see that. Sahid mentioned in terms of that PowerShell script as a Win32 app. It does have a PowerShell script that will detect if NuGet is installed on the device. Sounds good.
Mm-hmm.
We've got another question here on YouTube. Do you know how to configure the prestart command of an SCCM boot image with PowerShell?
Maybe. Maybe. Yes, I do. This one I posted earlier this year, how to create boot media. And basically, it's just in the parameters that you use for your bootable media, those are down here. So then you just feed that array of parameters or list of parameters into the command. I prefer to do it like this because those command lines, the ConfigMgr commandlets, they're going to be like a mile long otherwise. And this is one of the shorter ones. Some of them are like... I remember the ADR one to create
Oh my gosh.
rules. It was like 43. It was massive. Just
Yeah,
but it
it's
worked.
huge. Yep.
So yes.
Don't you love that? It's like you've written a blog post or two in your day. Have I done that before? Actually, yes.
I lost count the number of times I've been searching for something just to end up on my, well, not mine anymore, our blog. Oh, there it was. I I knew it.
Yeah, that's right. Great job, past Johan.
Yeah,
Thank you.
goes back to the
Awesome.
whole getting old and memory and
Yep, it's inevitable.
yeah.
All right. Do you know of a way in the SQL database or any other remote way to know which software update point ConfigMgr clients are using or trying to connect to scan for their updates?
Well, it's definitely in the logs.
Yeah, I don't know that that would actually come. You should, in theory, be able to do a CM pivot query with that as well, I would think. Well, at least you would know what it was configured for.
I wonder if
Uh,
there's a because there is a WMI entry for active management point. I wonder if there is one for active subs.
hmm.
No, I don't remember on the top of my head, but obviously log files can be parsed and log files can be read from CM pivot if you put your heart into it. Because it can read files.
All right. Let's see. So Matt is over on YouTube getting some machines that have suspended BitLocker at the end of an in-place upgrade task sequence. We're suspending at the beginning and then resuming at the very end with the manage BDE command, but they are still suspended. Stumped. Any ideas?
No, I have not seen it not recognizing a resume command. If anyone happened to have stumbled across it, let us know.
Yes, please. All right. Sahid's asking if we have a PowerShell script that can import bulk import device object IDs into Intune. Would that be like for autopilot?
Kind of sounds like it, and yes, you can do that through the PowerShell module.
Mm-hmm.
Each CSV can have 500 entries,
Mm-hmm.
and if it's not too many, you can of course just run the script over and over again with a couple of machines.
All right. Um, Matt's asking if we've seen any issues with apps between Windows 11 22H2 and 24H2.
There's been a couple that we've seen. I think AutoCAD was the one we mentioned the other week.
Yeah.
Bringing it up, VPN clients, and probably something else I don't remember right now.
I think in at least the case of AutoCAD, that was an actual safeguard hold.
Yeah.
Which is good. One of the big benefits of safeguard holds. It's not like upgrade and then find out AutoCAD's broken once that's out there. So
Now you'll have an unhappy engineer on the.
No doubt about that. All right. So Tim's got a question around the feature update policies in Intune. His organization's been using them to upgrade Windows 10 to Windows 11 23H2. Now, newly imaged devices not in this group that the feature update policy is assigned to are automatically upgrading to 24H2. Do all devices need to be in an update group? So one thing that we've seen commonly is if you just have the update rings assigned and have feature updates allowed, but no other policies assigned, your device is just going to be offered the latest feature update. And we've talked to some folks that have accidentally updated their whole fleet. Turned out okay for them, fortunately, in most cases, but that's kind of how that's happened. So those extra feature update policies are a way to control which feature update is actually offered to your devices that they're assigned to. So I would say yes, if you are using those feature update policies, you want to assign those out to any devices that you want to be locked at, in this case, 23H2. If you have no update policies assigned at all, now that we're about 6 months out of the 24H2 release, I would say yes, 24H2 is probably also going to get offered automatically if it's not on 24H2 yet. I don't know that you should quote me on that, but I believe that would be the case now at this point.
There is a specific policy you can set. Try to remember the name of it. Like you specify what target version you want to be in. It is not necessarily the feature update policy, it's just a regular policy for the updates. Let me see if I can find that.
So kind of doing the same thing.
Yeah, but without having to actually deploy 23H2 through the feature update policy, but just saying that no, don't touch if you're on this version. See if I can find it. Mm-hmm. Usually when we search like this, you find 82 sites that shows you how to do with the registry key. I was like, no, I wanted the actual policy.
Yeah.
If I throw in Intune into the mix, perhaps. Maybe this one. Let's see. Is my screen still showing?
Yes, sir.
All right. That was not the thing I was looking for. Maybe a noob has something. He's usually pretty spot on. I'll find it eventually.
I just realized I was muted. I was trying to find it as well, but coming up short myself.
Yeah, let's put that as a homework for next week.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Yes, Dennis is asking, have you guys tried PS App Deploy Toolkit version 4 with ConfigMgr? Lots of tutorials on Intune, not so much for SCCM.
No, I haven't had a chance to play around with it yet, even though it's been available for a couple of months. It's just been one of those, haven't found the time.
It's been on the list for both of us, I think.
Yeah.
The never-ending list. All right. And then Sahid had a follow-up here, not for autopilot in terms of importing the devices. PowerShell script is reading a group of devices and generating the object, an object ID CSV connecting through Azure, but would not upload to Intune.
I'm not quite following.
No, I'm not sure on the upload part. The only thing that I can think of
It sounds
there
like
was,
enrollment.
yeah.
No, sorry, don't know about that one. Because when you create devices, I mean, enroll them, that all these object IDs gets created
Right.
by the platform. It's not something that you like upload. The only thing I've been uploading has been autopilot devices.
Mm-hmm.
But
Same.
this was not the case. So
All right. Just checking to make sure that we got everything because time flew today.
yeah,
Flew by.
sure.
I think that's all of the questions, but I got a good list of links and everything that we'll be sharing for this evening. I've got the support dates, some primary user examples, Martin's blog post on Intune network requirements. Got some great stuff, I think, to share.
Sounds good.
All right.
All right, then. That basically leads me to hey, thank you, Andrew, for joining, and for everyone else there to joining in and asking questions and being part of our community.
Absolutely. Thank you, Johan, and thank you everyone that was able to join us today. Appreciate it. Have a great rest of your week.